too big a precinct, you know, that annoys me.
That's it, folks. The meeting has begun. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Have you all switched off your phones?
No.
Switch off your phones, and you know where the toilets and emergency exits are? There and elsewhere. Toilets are there. I'm standing in at short notice. Victor Luca, the mayor, is halfway to Wellington to a local government body meeting with the other mayors here, Aotearoa and Posty. And so I'm stepping in at short notice to make sure that if anybody can't understand my language, because I'm Scottish, just raise your hand. The other thing is, this is not going to be a heavy, it's going to be a fairly light-hearted, serious but light-hearted meeting, so no sweat. Furthermore, nobody's going to be rude to our guests. Yet you never are, but make sure it doesn't start tonight. I've got something I want to introduce. I wasn't sure who organized this meeting until an hour ago. I thought it was Whakatane people or Whakatane people, but it was these two gentlemen here, Dr. Art Nahill, right pronunciation?
That's fine.
And Glenn Colquhoun, which is a famous Scottish name. Anyway, this is what's going to happen tonight. I'm introducing Raymond. I thought you were going to be, I didn't realize that Greypow was not actually organizing this. These gentlemen did it. Welcome. Yeah. And welcome everybody else. Now, and this is how it's going to go. Art is going to give a rundown of where he's been, and he's going to do much of the speaking. And Glenn's going to do his bit, and I might do some summarizing or deal with questions. But I've got a low-key role here. There's a man at the back who's going to be taking pictures, I think. Stand up, please. You got your camera. Anyway, two more people. Have you got enough seats? Spare seats from other people?
One here for you.
Yeah, okay. Right, we're now starting, so could you please, Art, introduce yourself? You've come a long way and already done a meeting, and you might be weary.
Sure.
You're in charge now.
Sure. Thank you, Sandy. This is not. I'm not in charge. We work as a team.
He's in charge.
We work as a team. Tēnā koutou katoa, ko Art Nahill aho, ko Amerika, te whenua tupu, e noho ana ki Tamaki Makoto, he takuta, he tangata tiriti, tēnā koutou katoa. Kia ora for all being here. Let me just introduce the team here. I'm Art Nahill. I am a general hospital physician. This is Glenn Colquhoun, who is a GP. I'll let him talk about himself when he stands. These are the two people that keep us going. They are the brains and the heart of the team. This is Aotearoa, who is a crack filmmaker. And this is Emily, who does everything well. So they are really keeping us on track here. So thank you all for coming. This is called Hikoi for Health, a People's Inquiry. We are two old, angry doctors. We know that there's probably lots of anger and frustration among all of you. We've heard it, we've felt it for years, and we finally reached a point where we said, enough is enough. It's time for us to stand up and speak and say our piece. We do not have answers. So if anybody came tonight expecting that we were going to tell you how the health system should go, you can walk out and we won't be offended. This is the first phase of what we hope will lead to healthcare reform. This is for us an information gathering exercise. So we have this beautiful vanbulance. We bought a second-hand van, tradie van. It was painted for us by a renowned New Zealand artist. Many of you may have heard of him, Nigel Brown. It's a very distinctive style. Glenn has transformed the interior of the van into a recording studio. And essentially what we have been doing, we started in Kaitaia, we went to Te Hapua, Te Ti, we went to Whangarei. Where'd we go before there? We went to Kereke, we went to Kaitaia.
We've worn Art out, he doesn't know where he is.
I was saying to Glenn this morning, it feels like we're old rock stars on an album tour without the sex and the drugs and smashing the hotel rooms. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to hear people's stories of reform and hope. Because we feel that anger and frustration, if there isn't a creative outlet for it, becomes cynicism and apathy, and that's not productive. So we've been giving people lots and lots of opportunity and ways to share their stories of reform with us. So Oriwa has been filming people in the back of the van. In Kaitaia, we were at a Sunday market and people just wandered by and agreed to be filmed. We parked the van around the wrong way to see our web address, but we have been inundated with submissions via our website, which is healthreformnz.org. So you can submit your stories, you can submit short videos that you make on your phone. If you have longer documents that you want to upload, you can upload those as well. So we're trying to give people as many ways to share their stories as possible. We are not here to give answers. I've been very heartened so far on this hikoi because we've seen things that we think could be answers. We think that there are people in small communities who are doing amazing things. They see a void, they see a need, and they go and they fill that need. One of the things that we may talk about this evening is this is not a political protest, because, to be honest, I've been in New Zealand for 20 years, moved here with my Kiwi wife and 2 sons, and had a wonderful job at Auckland Hospital and then at Middlemore Hospital. And what I found was that gradually over the time that I was a hospital doctor, I was slowly but surely turned from a caregiver, someone who loved stories, loved to hold people's stories, into an assembly line worker whose only job was to move people through the system as quickly as humanly possible. It's like working on a Toyota assembly line, knowing that those Toyotas are going to crap out as soon as they leave the factory. And that's the model that we have. And that, I think, and I know that idea is shared by Glenn, is that all governments, certainly in the time that I've been here, have ignored the taonga of our national public healthcare system. I know some of you may share this idea that there is almost a not so subtle push toward privatization. If we just have everybody who can afford to take out insurance, maybe we don't have to worry so much about who might be left. But I think one thing that people don't understand is that you may have health insurance. There may be a role for private insurance in some way in a national healthcare system, but everybody needs a public health system. Because if you get sick in private, they're not looking after you. They're shipping you back to the public hospital. If you're too sick, your premiums are going to go up. And they may not want to do surgery on you in the private system, and they may ship you back to the public system. I don't know the actual percentage, but the vast majority of training that junior doctors and junior nurses get is done in the public system. So if you have insurance, if you know people who have insurance and think that they don't have a stake in a public health system that works for everyone, that is equitable, tell them that that may not actually be the case. So what we've been hearing so far as we've moved down the fish is that people are angry, people are frustrated. Everyone has a story, some of which, if I had more hair, would make it curl.
It's trying.
Yeah, well, it's trying. It's the humidity. But we really want to hear your ideas for how things could be better. So if you have a painful story, if you have a story where the health system failed you in some way or failed someone you love, failed whānau, failed you, think about what would have made that experience different. And those are the things that we really want to hear. Because, well, when we first started this, there wasn't going to be another phase. But what we've realized is that we can't just hold on to these stories without doing something with them. And so phase 2 is probably going to be going through each and every submission. And I can promise you, I can't promise you what will happen, but I can promise you that we will read every single submission. We are both poets, and this for us has been a living poem. And the worst poems I've ever written are the poems where I know what the ending will be. It's really important when I'm writing that I give the poem space to tell me what it wants to say. And that's the spirit in which we have come here. It's the spirit in which we will take your stories and move forward. So, tēnā koutou tātou katoa.
Kia ora a. Kia ora tātou te me tuatahi māku ki tēnei whare e tūnei tēnā koe. He whare karakia, he whare e kiana, ngā tāngata ātāhua, nō reira te whare, ngā tāngata tēnā kōrua, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou. E tuarua, whare ko ana hau tuku mihi, ki te hau kainga, ki awa, mai tu hoi, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, e me pai, kia tū, i rāro, i o koutou mana, i tēnei wā, ki taku tino hō ko Denise, tīnā koe e hoa, ka kite a hau i a koe, ka huri aku whakaro ki tērā wā, e mahi ana māua i kirikiri roa. Nō reira, ka nui te mihi, ka nui te mihi, ka nui te mihi. Ko Waiau, ko Colquhoun, tōku ingawa, e rua, ōku whānau, ko taku whānau tūturu, taku whānau tōtō, no tāmaki makaurau. Rātau, he koti mana, he tia mana, ōku tupuna. Engari ki tōku nei whakaro, he whānau Māori tōku. Ko Ngāti Rehia, te hāpu ko ngā puhi te iwi, nā rātou ahau I aku I te reo, I me ona tikanga. Nō reira, e mau mai ana hau, ngā mihi o aku whānau e rua ki te awhi I a koutou I te pōna. Nō reira, ka huri au ki tōku reo tuatahi, ki te kōrero tonu I tēnei wā, engari, tuku mihi ahau ki a koutou katoa. Kia ora everyone. We're not sure what to do with so many people showing up. Usually there's just a handful of people, and which has been lovely because we've been able to break up, talk to everybody one-on-one, because everybody's got such amazing stories, yeah, and ideas. So usually we've broken up into small groups for a couple of hours. We've interviewed people in the back of the ambulance. We've talked to people and shown them how to make submissions to the website, to scan QR codes and pop down their thoughts there, gathering thoughts and ideas. Sometimes just talking to them one-on-one and jotting down notes, things they want to say, and making paper submissions. So usually that's what we've been doing as we go around. But today, there's so many of you, I think we'll be here till about midnight speaking to each of you, but it's really gratifying to have so many people turn out. When Art and I got here, we put 10 chairs out. Oh, is that a bit ambitious, Art?
We were debating 6, 10.
So it's lovely to have you all come along. And as Art said, we're probably as frustrated as you. We are doctors who have worked, if you add us together, for nearly 60 years, in the trenches, in the front lines, with patients. And it's not a natural thing for a doctor to do, to speak out. It's taken us, we've had conversations for a long time about what our responsibilities are. I don't want to be seen as just dumping on the health system. I love the health system. It's been my work for nearly 30 years. I love the people that I've met there, my colleagues, the patients that I've worked with over the years. It's taught me so many things about what it is to be a human being. But it's because I love the health system that when I see it unwind in some ways, I want to stick up for it. To me, my work as a young Pākehā doctor was affected hugely by living and working in Māori communities. And they taught me to look at that space between us, those in-between spaces, as being a web of connections. And to me, the health system is a living, pulsing thing, yeah? Just like those fungal filaments underneath a forest that tie all the trees together, that it has a life force, that it has a modi. And I feel like, more than anything else, those who have led our health system for a long time have forgotten that or been distracted from it. I don't hate them. You've all lived long enough to know that there's no goodies and baddies anymore. There's just shades of grey. And sometimes we just get so focused on what we're doing in our small area, we don't see how we connect to everybody else, and we lose our reference points. And I feel like the health system generally works pretty well if you have an emergency, if you crash into a tree, if you have a heart attack or a stroke. We can make mistakes. It's a human system, so we always make individual mistakes. But by and large, it can cope with that. But if you struggle with a mental health problem, if you struggle with a long-term illness, if you live in a small rural area, if you struggle with an addiction, if you struggle with problems, pain, symptoms that medicine doesn't have a clear answer for, your journey through the health system can be very frustrating. And I've seen that with my patients. I work in youth health, And the reason I'm here is because for nearly 16 years, I've been listening to young people in our country tell me the stories of their life. And I'm always shocked by the amount of trauma I see in those young people, the lives, the difficulties they've been through, and how that plays out in their physical and mental health. So if I'm standing up, I want to say, can we please turn off that tap? Because people do heal from that. I've seen amazing stories of healing. But boy, it can take a while and it can cause some pain. And rather than fix something that's broken, I'd rather it didn't happen. So it's taught me to see health as being related to people's families, being related to their housing, their transport options, their employment options, their income, their ability to act powerfully in the world. And I often see our vulnerable young people get stuck in a current and they don't flow through into adulthood. So that makes me want to that's what's got to me. We're older, like I say, we're nuanced. When an older person in general practice talked to me, I didn't feel like I had to solve everything for them. When a young person tells you their story, it makes me feel different. I feel like in some way they're begging for the world to make sense. So in some ways they activate me and they like, if I can't explain how our health system works for them, then I need to stand up on their behalf and say, this is not fair. So that's why I'm here. We don't know what to do. Art and I are making this up as we go along. We just said, let's do something. So we're collecting stories of what works well in health, what doesn't work well. Most importantly, how could things be done better? And I think there's wisdom in our collective knowledge. I've worked in communities my whole life, and they've taught me as a doctor to kind of shut up and listen to what's already out there that works well and build connection. Because there's a lot of wisdom in the grassroots of all our communities. I see health systems, often doctors, managers, kind of can't help it. We tend by instinct to build things from the top down. I'd love the intellectual challenge of saying, how could we build something from the grassroots up? Because that's where a tree grows from. You don't start with the crown and build it down into the roots. It starts from the roots and goes up. So that's what I'm really interested in, is set us that intellectual problem. I think governments should do this, mate. I think they should have a van. I've said the other day, there's room for Simeon to sit between Art and I in the van and come to places like this. And we're not really angry at one side or the other because it's taken a generation, 25 years, to unwind some of the things in our system. I'm frustrated that reasonable, good leaders get into Parliament and it makes them stupid. Yeah, it compromises them so that they can't actually say what they think. And I'm sad that they can't work together to give us a stable environment of whatever sort, so that we can get some surety. We can support the bits that work well, and we can tidy up the bits that don't work well. So that's what we're doing. It's been amazing. There's been small groups, there's been larger groups. We've had lots of submissions coming in. Art and I are like, okay, it's going to take us 3 or 4 months to go through all of these, to read it. People have brought ideas we never even dreamed of. So, that's kind of where we are. I hope that makes sense. What we would like to do, because there's a big group of you, we would love for you to stand, if you feel brave enough, to tell us what your ideas are. We will sit down. We will have to maybe come up beside you and say, "You're beautiful, Fire, but the next person needs to speak too." Yeah. Or Matua, you're awesome, but because I know once people have an outlet for their frustration, sometimes it can go on. We have to be out of here in an hour and a half, and we'd like some time to talk to people one-on-one anyway. And I'm sure you'd like to be out of here in an hour and a half. So these amazing young filmmakers, if you're comfortable, would film our meeting, our hui, with people standing up. And we've got people from Kaitaia to here talking in the back of the van or in different places in all those venues. But we thought here we might, if you're brave enough, just video you in a hui so we can get round everybody. If you feel, but there's some constraints around that because you need to feel comfortable and give consent to it. We want to then bring all those voices together in a film at the end of our hikoi to show people's voices. So if you do speak, we need to follow up with you and get you to sign a consent form to say that's okay. Does that make sense? Yes. If you want to speak but you don't want it to be on a film, you can say that too. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And please don't growl us if we have to nudge things on a little bit. Is that okay? And what if we opened up the floor for a half hour or so, 3/4 of, because I know you might need to get up and walk around and see what people have to say. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I work with young people, so I'm really dumb about some things too. So if you're like, want a consultation, I might not be